Advanced English Podcast, Lesson 3, Deep Listening, How to Understand Native Speakers Easily. Welcome to Lesson 3 of your Advanced English program. Before we begin, if you haven't listened to Lesson 1 and Lesson 2 yet, I strongly recommend going back and listening to them first. Each lesson builds on the previous one, and the full transformation happens when you follow the sequence step by step. If you have already completed Lessons 1 and 2, then you are ready to continue with today's session. This lesson is all about deep listening, understanding native speakers effortlessly, even when they speak fast, use slang, or jump between ideas. Most learners think listening is just hearing words, but true listening is something more. It is the ability to follow meaning, emotion, rhythm, intention, and connection. Deep listening is not only a language skill, it is also a life skill. Let's begin with a key idea. Listening well is more important than speaking well. People trust you more when they feel heard. And the better you listen, the better you speak, because your brain absorbs natural patterns of English through sound, not through grammar rules. There are 3 principles that form the foundation of deep listening. The first principle is anticipation. Native speakers do not listen word by word. They predict the next idea based on context. For example, if someone starts a sentence with honestly, your mind already expects a personal opinion. If someone says to be fair, you expect a balanced or corrective point. Anticipation reduces mental effort and makes listening smooth. The second principle is tolerance. Real conversations are messy. People interrupt themselves, change direction, or use half sentences. A deep listener does not panic when a word is unknown. Instead, they stay calm and focus on the main idea. Tolerance means accepting that you will not understand everything and that this is normal even for native speakers. The third principle is pattern recognition. English has rhythms, structures, and repeated forms. When you listen often, your brain begins to recognize patterns automatically. You start noticing how native speakers introduce ideas, change topics, disagree softly, or emphasize a point. Once you recognize these patterns, listening becomes much easier. Now let's explore advanced expressions used specifically in native-level conversations, the ones that help you follow the flow better. One important expression is speaking of which. It signals a natural transition. When a speaker uses it, they are connecting the current topic to a related idea. Another useful expression is by the way. This introduces new information that is connected but not essential to the main topic. When a speaker wants to add detail, they may say, just to clarify. This means they will explain something more precisely. When someone wants to refocus the conversation, they may say, back to what we were saying. This brings the discussion back on track after a small detour. To emphasize an important point, native speakers often say, the thing is. It prepares the listener for a key idea. When summarizing, speakers may say, so basically, this indicates that they are about to compress a long explanation into one clear idea. These expressions act like signposts. They guide you through the speaker's thoughts and help you anticipate where the conversation is going. Now, let's shift into the podcast monologue for today, a deeper reflection on the art of listening. Listening is an act of presence. It requires you to be here, in this moment, not thinking about your response, not checking your phone, not drifting into stress or memories. Deep listening starts when you choose to be fully present. When you listen deeply, you don't only hear words, you hear the speaker's intention. You hear their emotions, their pauses, their excitement, their uncertainty. You begin to understand not just what they are saying, but why they are saying it. Many learners believe they fail at listening because their English is not good enough, but often the real problem is that they are listening with tension. They are afraid to miss a word. They become anxious, and anxiety blocks the brain from processing language smoothly. Deep listening is not about catching every word. It is about following meaning. The human mind is designed for patterns, not perfection. You can miss 20% of the words and still understand 100% of the message if you focus on structure and emotion. When native speakers talk to each other, they rarely speak clearly or perfectly. They'll overlap ideas, jump between topics, and use shortcuts in their language. But the reason they still understand each other is because they listen for intention, not for grammar. If you train yourself to listen for intention, listening becomes 10 times easier. For example, when someone says, "To be honest," you know honesty is coming. When someone says, "Long story short," you know they're going to summarize. When someone says, "At the end of the day," you know they're concluding. You are no longer lost. You are riding the wave of the conversation. Deep listening also helps you build stronger relationships. People feel valued when you listen without interrupting and without planning your answer while they speak. Many people listen to respond, but few listen to understand. You can become one of the few. Let's move into the storytelling structure for today. This lesson introduces the layered story. A layered story has 4 parts. First, the surface event, what happened. Second, the hidden meaning, why it mattered. Third, the emotional layer, how it felt. And fourth, the insight, what it taught you. Here is an example in full flow. A few months ago, I was speaking with a friend who was explaining a difficult situation at work. On the surface, it was a simple story about a disagreement in a meeting, but the hidden meaning was that he felt ignored by his team. The emotional layer was frustration mixed with disappointment. The insight for me was realizing that people often talk about events when they are actually talking about emotions. That conversation taught me that deep listening requires hearing what is not said directly. You can use this storytelling method in conversations, interviews, or presentations to create depth and connection. Now, let's move into the advanced vocabulary review for this lesson. The first word is anticipation. It means expecting or predicting something before it happens. In deep listening, you anticipate the next idea. The second word is tolerance. This means accepting imperfection and staying calm when you don't understand everything. The third phrase is pattern recognition. It is the ability to notice repeated structures in speech, which makes listening much easier. The fourth word is presence. This means giving your full attention to the moment, without distraction. The fifth phrase is surface event. This refers to what happened externally in a story. The sixth phrase is emotional layer. This refers to the feelings underneath the surface of a story. The seventh word is insight. This means a deep understanding or realization gained from an experience. These words appear frequently in psychology, communication training, leadership discussions, and advanced English content. We now reach the conclusion of Lesson 3. In today's session, we explored the foundations of deep listening, learned the principles that native speakers use unconsciously, studied advanced conversational expressions that signal structure, listened to a reflective monologue about presence and understanding, practiced the layered story framework, and reviewed vocabulary essential for advanced communication. Listening is not about catching every word. It is about following intention,